Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom or Tom. How's it going?
Tony, we love a little deja vu, don't we, folks? If you're a subscriber to the podcast, you probably saw a show very recently about the 3 names to watch for the Michigan job or whatever it was. And we got done recording that. We hit stop. We got it uploaded. And then, Tony, what we love to see, a statement on twitter.com, not a notes app, but a statement from Kalen DeBoer, Alabama head coach, quote, "My family and I are very happy in Tuscaloosa and remain extremely grateful for the support of President Moeller, Greg Burr, and the board, and so many others. We have an incredible opportunity in front of us, so my sole focus is on Alabama football and our preparations to play Oklahoma in the college football playoff. I have not spoken and have no interest in speaking with anyone else about any other job. I am fully committed to this program and look forward to continuing as the head football coach at the University of Alabama. Kalen DeBoer, head football coach." Well, Tony, I guess we can start the show with, do you believe him?
When he says no interest, does he actually mean some interest or a bunch of interest? That seems pretty emphatic, no interest. And I think it's different than some of the coaches that will say, I'm here. I am focused on getting Alabama through the playoffs. I'm focused on that. And then he does add, I have no interest. So I'm going to take him at his word. It's still too early, I guess, in his tenure to get an extension plus, no national championships. So you can't push your luck too much there, Kalen DeBoer. But based on truthful coaching statements, I am choosing to believe him because, Tom, if I didn't believe him, I wouldn't be re-recording the show.
Yeah, we had it probably is a material change to the subject matter we just covered, and we apparently are not the only ones who had basically this exact conversation earlier in the afternoon, and it's like, well, he hasn't said he's not interested, and then hit publish, and then immediately he says he's not interested. So there you go. Kalen DeBoer, arguably probably not interested in the Michigan job. If they lose by 17 to Oklahoma in the first round of the playoff, we'll see if that interest is rekindled, but we'll also see if that job is still open at that point.
And in the previous show that no longer exists, we talked about Kalen DeBoer. We also talked about Kenny Dillingham, who has said much the same in that he is locked into Arizona State. And earlier in the weekend, you could bet that he would be bet on him, and he had the highest odds, the best odds to be Michigan's next coach. In fact, there were some sites that stopped taking bets because all of the money was coming in on Kenny Dillingham because, boy, it was a sure thing. And then on Saturday, he gets in front of a microphone and says, everything that he loves about Arizona State, how he lives next door to his sister and his parents are 3 doors down, all in the same neighborhood. And he has no reason to leave. This place is very, he's been tied to it forever. He had to stop saying what he was saying to just gather himself. And it was like a 15, 20-second pause, emotional pause to gather himself. And that doesn't seem like something you'd do if you were ready to leave. So if 2 of the top 3 guys that we talked about being the most likely or being among the realistic options,
Yes,
we can perhaps eliminate, then there has to be more than just one guy, right? There has to be somebody else other than the one guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be more names that are at least theoretically possible because you never know. You might have someone change their mind on something. But, if you're going to take the Kalen DeBoer thing, which feels pretty definitive as he's not going to go, and if you're going to take the Kenny Dillingham thing, that he's not going to go. And he, there's all sorts of working on an extension right now, sort of reporting out there, which is generally accurate and generally an indication that they are working. There is a framework, a memorandum of understanding, whatever it is, in place that they're working on an extension. So if you take those 2 top guys off the board, I think the next name on the list is Jedd Fisch, the head coach at Washington. And to me, Jedd Fisch, if they get down the list to the point of Jedd Fisch, that's where the search stops. Because You just heard the Kalen DeBoer statement earlier. I'm going to read you Jedd Fisch's quote after the game on Saturday night, where they won their bowl game. Quote, "I'm fully focused on the team." Fisch, who previously coached as a Michigan assistant, said about job speculation. Quote, "I think our team worked really hard this whole week, and we all gave everything we had, and we played at a very high level because of that. That's all I would say on that." Boy, Tony, that was slightly less definitive than the Kalen DeBoer thing. And, I think you can have a lot of this is you're looking at the bird in the hand and, what's that over there in the bush. And for Kalen DeBoer, you're the head coach at Alabama. And there are certainly drawbacks to being the guy who follows Nick Saban. Unquestionably, there are drawbacks to that. I mean, the first couple of years for Kalen DeBoer have not gone phenomenally. And I think there's a decent possibility that, while I'm sure everyone in Alabama, Greg Byrne, the AD, gave a statement and was hooray for everyone, he's staying, basically. Give it 12 months, give it 24 months. Like, are you 75% confident that Kalen DeBoer is still the head coach at Alabama? Because I'm sure not. It doesn't, maybe, but there's lots of ways that if they have another 10-2, 9-3 kind of fringy playoff season and lose in the first round next year, like, the novelty of that's going to wear off pretty quick in Tuscaloosa. Kenny Dillingham has the mama called thing working for him, where he's literally mama called, where, mama's living 3 doors down, and mama does not want to be singing Here Without You. There's a little, got it? Yeah, got it? All right. Anyway, I think there's a reasonable case for both of those guys to say Jedd Fisch, his ties to Washington are, he got hired to coach there a couple of years ago. And, and we can go through Jedd Fisch's resume. And I don't want this to feel like, oh boy, Michigan's really settling for a clunker if they hire Jedd Fisch. Like, I think Jedd Fisch is a really, really good coach. And I think Jedd Fisch could do probably some exciting things with Bryce Underwood. Probably very, very good for Bryce Underwood if Jedd Fisch was there as opposed to last year's Michigan staff. But, I don't think the search gets past Jedd Fisch, because why would Jedd Fisch say no to this? Because he was just in the, Florida and LA, some of the SEC kind of job openings, and lots of people were able to leverage that into big extensions and salary bumps and all that kind of stuff. Jedd Fisch was not. And so, there's nothing really tying him to Washington necessarily. And Michigan is probably a better spot overall.
But, Tom, I'm with you that normally Jedd Fisch would not turn this job down. He's been at Michigan before. But with the internal investigation going on right now, with the probation that is there, with just the eyes on Michigan right now, and I don't know if there's any kind of stain for a coach. I do. If there's one reason he wouldn't take it, it's just because of everything going on. But I don't know that doesn't really limit them in terms of their capabilities, because there's no scholarship limitations. And really, that's always the big thing. Like, well, do I want to go there? We're only, we're 10 short on scholarships of everybody else. That's not a concern. You're on TV. There's no, really, what does probation mean anymore in terms other than just don't get caught again? And don't worry, Michigan's got really good lawyers. Even if they do get caught, they'll sue you. They'll sue you so that they won't get in trouble. But I think there's some concerns where you at least have to look. And we know he can wait and wait and wait because his season is over with. I don't think he's going to wait for this internal investigation to be done, because that could take months and months and months and be done into the summer. But I do expect, if it is offered to him, that he would take it and do so knowing, there may be some initial difficulties, but does that get him an extra year on his contract? Those sorts of things where you parlay the probation and the NCAA violations into more security for you. And I think that might be something that he would do, or his agent would do. And overall, 32-33 as a head coach, that's his career record. But you have to factor in the 1-11 start at Arizona to that in his first year at Arizona. And you take that one away, and you could see, and he went from 1-11 in his first year to 10-3 in his third year. So you've seen the ability to increase wins, went from 6 wins in his first year at Washington last year to 9 this year. So he's got that track record. He's been all over the place in the NFL and probably 8 to 10 different NFL teams. Started his career at University of Florida, which is where he graduated from. He's been at Michigan, UCLA, as we know, and then, like I said, at Miami for a stint there as OC and quarterbacks coach in 2011, 2012. A Tom, he's the kind of guy that is exactly what Bryce Underwood needs in terms of developing that quarterback and getting more out of your young quarterback. Like, no, this is not and I don't even know that Kalen DeBoer, like, there's only a few names where it's like, well, it's you'd hire Kirby Smart if you could. You can't do that. You've got to get the guys that will accept the job. And I think Jedd Fisch, I guess this is what happens when you fire your coach after the coaching carousel, but also a huge upgrade from Sharon Moore.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that they're hiring at a weird part of the cycle. And the last time they were hiring, they were also hiring at a weird part of the cycle. And that's because everyone in the Michigan orbit wanted to pretend that Jim Harbaugh wasn't going to leave them. And, oh, no. Oh, he's just waiting to sign this contract extension. Are you going to be embarrassed when he signs this contract extension in any day now? And it was like, you can look even from the outside and go like, well, obviously he can read the tea leaves and there's going to be a long and involved investigation and he's probably not going to come out great from that. And if he has the opportunity to flee this jurisdiction, why would he not do that? Like he got to the top of the mountain. He got Michigan back to where he sort of promised to get them to. And so then he can sort of dust his hands and ride off to the NFL and it's not his problem anymore. But because that got strung out so long, then the whole hiring cycle was over, and then you're hiring a head coach at a weird time, and you're coming off a national championship. And it's, well, we got to take an internal guy, I guess. And so you end up with Sharon Moore. And how did that end up? Well, I'm sure it was fine. Anyway, so now you're at a different weird part of the cycle where, you had the Sharon Moore thing. It turns out, spoiler alert, did not end well, but did not end well at a period where most of the other big high profile jobs had been filled. And the ones who hadn't been filled, had coaches, other potential top targets. A lot of those guys signed extensions very recently to keep them happy and where they are. So that makes it a little more difficult and a little more expensive to hire a lot of the other potential top candidates for this job. We haven't talked about Jeff Brom yet on this show. We talked about him on the last show. We're going to talk about him now. He at Louisville has not finished re-upping his whole thing. Like that's another name that if I think Jeff Brom and Jedd Fisch are guys I would have somewhat similarly on my list in terms of like what the ceiling is at Michigan and what the floor is at Michigan. I think they both would do a perfectly fine job at Michigan, but not necessarily be, the absolutely transformational figure that they might be looking for otherwise. I think Kenny Dillingham probably has a lower floor but a higher ceiling at Michigan just because he's younger. But it sounds like that one's off the table. But you're probably looking at either one of those guys, and either one of those hires is a perfectly good hire. I don't think this is oh man, they got so burned. But to your point, these are guys coming in, and Michigan has the video that they play before before every game where James Earl Jones sternly intones, "This is the greatest university in the world," and everyone cheers. It's like, well, you're kind of in the scratch and dent sale right now for various reasons. Like you're not viewed as the top job in the market, probably given a lot of the other stuff that's happening, including the fact that your current AD right now, you don't have a university president, and your current AD, there are a lot of folks, reaching for the torches and pitchforks with the current AD. So then are you getting hired and then the university president's going to change and the AD is going to change, and that generally doesn't do phenomenal things for your long-term job security. And if I know that, Jedd Fisch and his representation certainly know that, as does Jeff Brom. So you are, to your point, probably going to end up paying a little more and or extending a little more term guaranteed to make, sort of compensate for the fact that you're coming in what is not a completely stable situation.
Can I throw a name out there that is a name that has been mentioned in the past, but in the distant past.
Charlie
Kyle
Weiss.
Whittingham.
Ooh.
Kyle Whittingham retires, leaves Utah. Speculation that he's actually not retiring, and he's 2 years older than Curt Cignetti. This is a guy that has been a top choice of a lot of schools for the better part of since about 2000, almost 20 years now, basically, because he took over in 2004, 2005 from Urban Meyer, and has done well. And that's a guy that I assume Michigan looked at back when they went from Rich Rod to Brady Hoke, and maybe before then as well. That's a guy. If you're just looking for somebody he's got a few years left, a guy that'll get you right, if you have the opportunity to get him, is that a better thing than grabbing a Jedd Fisch or somebody that? Because honestly, after Jedd Fisch, I don't know who else is necessarily likely in all of this. Is it swinging for the fences, or is it swinging? I don't even know what it would be swinging for if you go out and try to get like a Kyle Whittingham, who has won and won and won out west and has never been part of the Midwest. And I think it's interesting. I also think it's interesting that he never wanted it before, never pursued it necessarily. I wonder if now he's like, yeah, okay, I will listen. What happens if Michigan gives him a call?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because Kyle Whittingham is very similar to me to another guy who recently got hired in the Big Ten, Matt Campbell, where guys who are winning bigger in a place that has not historically been a place where you can win all that big. Kyle Whittingham took over for Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer had lifted that program to a remarkable heights as a non-power team. Kyle Whittingham got them to that level as a power team and was able to sort of sustain, not the perfect record that Urban Meyer had that one year, but was able to sustain a really solid level of success, and really kind of like the Barry Alvarez comment almost of Utah, where it's like, we have an identity. We are going to win this way. We are going to out-tough you. We are going to just mash your faces. And, we spent a Rose Bowl recently, goodness, 4 years ago now, holy smokes, but time flies. Anyway, we spent a Rose Bowl somewhat recently covering Kyle Whittingham, and I came away from that like super impressed with the Utah program.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still follow a bunch of Utah reporters. Like, I enjoy that program a lot. I think Kyle Whittingham is a fantastic culture builder. Really would, in some ways, I think there's a certain subset of the Michigan fan base booster community that would absolutely love, like, oh man, we are going to man ball you like you would not believe. He would be an interesting hire, because that's very clearly like a caretaker kind of come in for a couple of years and get stuff on steady ground, where if he comes in, man, oh man, are they going to be a competitive 9-3 that is going to be miserable to play? But, not even the geographic piece of it, which is certainly a part of the story, in terms of local high schools and all that kind of stuff. He's not going to know any of those folks, but he's also, Utah football it's a very nice program. It's a very solid program. It is a program that probably operationally is maybe half of the operating budget of Michigan, maybe. And it's not the same thing. And you're probably, your boosters are all people who have grown up watching you coach the team. So that's one kind of relationship. Now you're the new guy in town and you've got to sort of prove yourself. And I don't know, he would absolutely be a grown up in charge of the program. And maybe that's what they're looking for. If that's what it comes down to, where, he is a grown up in charge of the program. And, at halftime, he's going to be focused on football and not anything else. And that, there is a certain amount of like, yeah, I can get the appeal there. And again, I like him a lot. I would have the same concerns with him at Michigan that I do with Matt Campbell at Penn State, which is, you are taking a big step up. And I know you are a fantastic head coach at this level of the sport. Can you be a fantastic head coach at this level of the sport? And I don't know the answer to that. Like, that's why Kalen DeBoer is like, I have seen Kalen DeBoer get a team to a national championship game. And so have Michigan fans. They were also there. But, Kyle Whittingham, Matt Campbell, I like them a lot as coaches. I don't know if the skill set translates exactly to what you're looking for at a, high level Big Ten program.
Yeah, and we will all find out together whether it's going to be choosing the adult in the room of a Kyle Whittingham or going the complete opposite direction and bringing in somebody from the Jim Harbaugh tree like a Jesse Minter, and or just choose somebody in between there and make it the Jedd Fisch pick that everybody expects and go from there. But it will be interesting to see how much a coach wants to be hired by somebody who may not be there when he's actually signing the deal. And that's the problem with Michigan right now, and they're going to have to wade through all of that. But that will do it for us from here. If you would, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, we'd appreciate that. And of course, all of your 5-star ratings and reviews are appreciated as well. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.